Oops, I did it again, otherwise known as ranking and listening to more scary video game music to find the scariest video game music ever made. Here we go again. First up is Fear and Hunger. How fun and playful that is. Pulse and Anxiety. This should be enthusiastically wonderful. Okay, at first I was like, not really. But that drone is uncomfortable. I like the soundscape behind this. That drone is really tense. I love this. Actually, I love this. I'm sorry guys, that's not scary. That is actually cool. So here's the thing about that particular piece. The noise in between the big drones is really, really atmospheric and crunchy, but I wouldn't say it's scary. I think that's more a situation where we're getting tense. That feels like a chase, pulse and anxiety. And that's actually literally what we hear in this music. We get the pulse of the big drone, boom, which is super satisfying to listen to actually. That's a piece that I would like work out at the gym with. Like that doesn't freak me out. That actually made me motivated. Maybe I'm just a psychopath, but it's possible. I don't know. That is actually like a 4 out of 10 on the scariest video game music of all time list. It's not that it's not scary, but it's more tense than it is fearful and terrifying. And to be fair, we can create soundscapes that are scary sounding, and in that case that succeeds. But in terms of actually making me viscerally uncomfortable, which is what I'm actually looking for on this barometer, that doesn't really do it for me at all. Next up, we've got Half-Life 2 Radio Song. That's uncomfortable. Now, is it terrifying? If I was in like a department store and this came on, or if I was like in the mall and just minding my own business, like shopping for clothes and this came on, I would be freaked the fuck out. It's hard, right? Because we have two different obstacles here. One, we have the sound effect obstacle, where a sound effects can make things automatically, that soundscape is uncomfortable because it's like based around a sound effect. Musically, I'm not so sure that that is terrifying. That's really unnerving, but that also is probably like a 5 out of 10 on the scariest video game music of all time list. It's definitely unnerving. You know what? I'll bump it up to a 6 because I think like if you're really in the right state of mind and your head's down, or if you're in a dark room and you're listening to that, and it's hard in this particular setup because I'm in the brightest possible part of the day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because I refuse to play this late at night, because why would I do that to myself? It's really unnerving. The muffled sound quality, the sort of like the gramophone sound that feels really old, and then also the repeated ma ba ba. It's uncomfortable. I'll put that at a 6 out of 10. Next is the game that everyone wants me to play, but I just haven't gotten myself to play it, is Omori. This is Omori 56122. Very cute picture of a cat and a moon person. How bad could it be? that repetition, it's a little bit uncomfortable, isn't it? Now we get some sound effect. And all this noise, this like, sounds like rubber band smacking. That's like a really effective, feels like pitter patter almost of rats or spiders. So again, we have a situation where that track is unnerving and uncomfortable. Why? Because we have that boom, bum, 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 bum. So those are not like hitting like standard chord notes. That we're dealing a lot with a soundscape there that is based on dissonance and based on feeling uncomfortable. And it certainly achieves that in a great way. Is it the scariest video game music I've ever heard? No, by no stretch of the imagination. That one is just kind of unsettling. I mean, it's not pleasant. It's not Animal Crossing, you know, the main theme from Animal Crossing. It's not gonna, it doesn't bring you joy per se, unless you're really into weird stuff, which is fine. Repetition is in there, which is really effective. Sort of the microtone soundscape is in there, especially blah, 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 blah. That's uncomfortable, so that's definitely, you know, it works towards being scary and unnerving. Musically itself, I would put that as a 5 out of 10 on the scariest video game music of all time list. It's just not reaching those upper peaks where I really don't want to keep listening to it. Okay, next up is Not Safe Off. What is that? Not off? What, not safe? We get repetition again. Ooh, the whispering! Oh, I don't like that. I just made a farty noise with my mouth. Ugh! Oh, I don't like that. Oh! I just heard a muscle on my neck listening to this. Whispering is terrifying. So it's interesting, right? Because is whispering a musical idea? And the answer is yes. I mean, we use whispering in singing a lot. We modify our voices, whether it's soft singing, loud singing. We also include like, you know, spoken text. And in this particular case, whispering here is deeply unsettling and deeply evocative. Also, the reason why it's so interesting to me is because we have the repetitive ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. There's a randomness to that. So one of the things that I find really effective in a lot of these pieces, actually all of the pieces we've sort of listened to, is this sense that there's a randomness about each aspect of it. So like none of it feels really well structured. Fear and Hunger did. But if it's not too structured, I think that's actually really effective. It's a really effective tool because structure allows us to hold on to something. So even if it's uncomfortable to us and it makes us feel kind of icky, structure allows us to feel grounded. And what this track does really well is, even though we have this da 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 da. There's almost like it's off kilter, right? It doesn't really feel like it's put together really well. So that's number one. Number two, the banging of the door and then the person saying, hey, that is also, so it's interesting because that's sound effect mixed in with musical design choice, mixed in with the whispering. All of those things combined with the randomness of the percussion instrument, the mallet instrument, that causes a sense of deep, unsettled discomfort and fear. That is not pleasant. It's very, 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 very unnerving. And that mostly because of the whispering, which I do count as a musical form of expression, I would put that at a very solid 8 out of 10 on the scariest video game music list. I don't want to listen to that ever again. Next up, in things that are definitely not going to be uncomfortable, is Drought from Pokemon Ruby. Not possible, but here we go. I was about to skip, but we have the dink-a-dink kind of subdivision. What I found really interesting about that piece is this sort of repetition. Bum, 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 bum. And then you have the drone underneath. These things are the tools that we're given to create a sound that's uncomfortable. In the world of Pokemon, that is very, very scary. And also, it's unnerving for me, certainly. It's also really uncomfortable because of where the pitches are. It almost feels like it's like futuristic or an alien invasion or something. There's a sound quality there that's really digs into your ears. Bop, 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 bop. Is it the scariest video game music of all time? I'd probably put that at a 6. It's certainly uncomfortable. I will say that it uses music as a tool to elicit fear. Is it the scariest video game music of all time for me? No, it is not. Silent Hill 2, Silent Heaven. People were upset of the first Silent Hill track I included. This apparently is way worse. So what could be better? Oh yeah. That's definitely worse. It's louder and louder and louder. It's excellent use of crescendos here. Okay. Yeah, that one definitely is up there. I mean, that probably may be the winner. I think that was like a 9 out of 10 for me. And the reason why that is so terrifying is that it has a couple different phases. I really don't want to go back and play it, but I feel like I should, just so I can point out why. we're like playing on the lower portion of the piano, and what we're doing is we're clustering chords so that they're very, very, very not in a normal chord structure. And what we're doing is we're causing this real sound, like as if an animal is pressing on the keys and making us feel like it's inhuman. So even though there's a pulse and a pattern in there, it is quite unnerving because either way, that's not a normal thing that we would hear. It reminds me very much of a prepared piano by John Cage, which John Cage would open the piano up, puts a bunch of screws and bolts and things into the keys so that when the hammers would hit the strings, they would go ting, ting, ping. And that is really apparent to me in this one. There's also a couple other things that make it really uncomfortable. Mostly the very gradual but very haunting increase in volume. And playing with volume is really effective at creating a soundscape of terror and a fear of discomfort. It's very much the type of thing that puts us on the edge of our seat, makes us really think something's coming at us, especially when we have that crescendo into the next phase, and then it ends abruptly too, which is like, whoa, that's very uncomfortable. And then of course we have the sound effect, ba-doom shop, ba-doom shop, ba-doom shop. There's a bit of a randomness that I think I'm noticing in a lot of these themes. The randomness is actually what causes an immense feeling of fear. This particular track, Silent Hill 2 Silent Heaven, does an excellent job, and I would put that at a 9 out of 10 on the scariest video game music of all time list. That's up there. That was not fun to listen to. Sonic music drowning. Here we go. I can see why someone would attribute that with scary music. However, that is stressful music. That is stress-inducing music. That is music that is saying, hey, get out of here. You got to do something. You can't just stay here. You got to, jump out of the water. You're drowning. That is not scary. That's not going to make you, well, it could make you poop yourself. But ideally, power to, what am I trying to say? I don't think that's scary. That's like a 2 out of 10. I'll put it a 2 out of 10 just because it has a little bit of that soundscape of terror, because like, oh my God, I need to make sure I jump out of that. But that's much more stressful rather than actually like scary. Next up is Dark Passage from the Outer Wilds DLC. Real pressing quality. It also really feels like we're alone. There's a loneliness in this that's very uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Real crunch in it. Dissonance. It's interesting to see this track in here because it's very uncomfortable, and part of that is because if Outer Wilds is based on space and Echoes of the Eye is similarly based in or about space, the soundscape really is the same. There's this overwhelming sense of aloneness, which is absolutely terrifying in that game, and there's a real quality in there of being abandoned and having nowhere to turn. Right, and that is uncomfortable. Musically, I would say that's sitting around a 6 or a 7 on the scariest music of all time list. There's a real sense of like pursuit and emptiness, both coupled in there, that is really uncomfy. Did it make me really sit on the edge of my seat? No, it didn't. But it does do such a great job of making you feel empty, with nowhere to run or turn. Next up is Ikana Valley from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Oof. So this does something that the other tracks have not really done, in that there is a real form and structure to this piece, which earlier I said that that was why that particular track was not scary, was because, is that what I said? I don't remember. Form rarely makes us afraid, but in this particular case, what I find really interesting is the lower use of the piano. The lower piano, menacing, evil, terrifying. The upper part of the piano, angelic, pristine. It makes sense. The heaven is up at the upper top and the hell is at the bottom. It makes sense. But so the lower piano, the way that we're hitting the hammers and the keys here, obviously this is a MIDI file. It does create a sense of discomfort there, but it's really not too bad until the male choir comes in this MIDI soundscape, which actually I think makes it more scary. Again, we're out of chord. We're out of sync. We're out of like a tonal scale here. We're kind of just hitting a random set of pitches that all create the sense of emptiness, ghastliness, a sense that we're alone, a sense that this is an abandoned place, Ikana Village, a place that suffered and has spirits dwelling in it. It's certainly a very uncomfortable soundscape, and easily to me that is an 8 out of 10 on the scariest video game music list. That is an uncomfortable piece to listen to. Next up is Baten Kaitos, a game that I have not heard talk about in a while, Deterioration. Swelling, increasing in volume. Oh. Shut. Ticking clock. What I find great about this is that this is like your classic movie music horror. Is it the scariest video game music ever made? I mean, no, probably not. But what I really find effective about it is that we're using traditional instrumentation, traditional orchestration. We are creating a sequence, especially it sounds like that's like Stanley Kubrick sound, or I'm thinking Alfred Hitchcock. That sort of swell hit and then pop we hear in like standard classical horror films, where we do feel like we're A, being chased, B, our backs are against the walls. Everything kind of fits within itself. There's not a ton of dissonance, but it is really uncomfortable and unnerving. And it does give you the classic Hollywood horror movie night vibes. Well, you know what? I'll put that at a 6 out of 10 because I feel like the other tracks that I've listened to have utilized different components of music and or sound effects to create a real sense of discomfort and dis-ease. You know what? No, I'll keep it at a 7 too, just because I think it deserves to be at the upper top, because it's really quite intense and certainly unnerving, though in a very fluid and orchestral sense, so maybe it won't be as scary as some of the other tracks we've listened to. Let's listen to Hail the Nightmare from Bloodborne. dissonant crunch. That's good. Dissonance right there. Ooh, more dissonant clash. Again, another classic horror piece. Ooh, low. Ooh. Oh, hard to sing. This is a tough one to learn, I'm sure. So much dissonant clash here. Ooh. Love the slide down in the background. Definitely a lot of dissonant clashes in there. Certainly a very, very ominous track, especially when we have the sustained boom, sanguinetum. And then you get sanguinetum. That's really uncomfortable. There's a lot of dissonance in there. Obviously, we're playing a ton with dissonance. It's definitely the kind of thing where you wouldn't want to walk into a church and be like, hello. Right, like that would make me really uncomfortable, and it's really evocative because it's all slow moving, lots of sustained notes there, especially in the lower strings. There's a sound quality in there of not being invited to the party, of really feeling like you're having to stand your guard against something as these things slowly approach you. And you know, Hail the Nightmare is really the sound that really comes across. It does feel like we are praising the terror of this night, of this world, and it's pretty unnerving. I would put that at just slightly above the Baten Kaitos piece, because I love that both of these use traditional orchestration, not necessarily sound effects or other things, to produce a sense of discomfort. So I'd put that at an 8 out of 10 on the ranking of the scariest video game music of all time list. Yeah, the Silent Hill track, though, definitely stood out as the most unnerving, and the one that used both sound effects and music to create an atmosphere and an ambiance of absolute sheer terror. And that's kind of the list. Of course, as you know, this list means absolutely nothing, and I'd love to know what your perspectives were on these tracks. And if you want me to do a part 3, please don't, but I'll be happy to do it if you really want it. So let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of this list, and keep those suggestions coming for more of this series. Thanks a ton, and I'll see you later. Bye.